I buried my husband on a rainy Tuesday in March. 47 people came to the funeral. His coworkers, our neighbors, friends we'd made over 8 years of marriage. Everyone said the same thing. He was too young. What a tragedy. At least it was quick. A car accident on Highway 101. Rainy night, sharp curve. Car went off the cliff into the ocean. They never found his body. The Coast Guard searched for 3 days. Divers went down twice. Nothing. The current was too strong, they said. The ocean doesn't always give back what it takes. I was 34 years old, a widow, alone in a house that still smelled like his cologne. The life insurance check arrived 6 weeks later. $2 million. I didn't want it. I would have given every penny to have him back, to hear his laugh one more time, to feel his arms around me. I put the money in savings and tried to rebuild my life. 14 months later, I saw my dead husband walking out of a restaurant in San Diego, holding hands with a pregnant woman, laughing, very much alive. And that's when I realized I hadn't lost my husband. He had stolen $2 million from me and disappeared. But let me start from the beginning. My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 35 years old now. I'm a veterinarian. I own a small animal clinic in Santa Barbara, California. It was my dream since I was 6 years old, crying over an injured bird in our backyard. I built the clinic myself. Well, not literally, but I took out the loans, found the location, hired the staff, built the client base, one sick puppy at a time. After 10 years, the clinic was worth about $1 million. Not huge money, but enough. Enough to feel proud. Enough to feel like I'd built something real. I met Ryan Donovan when I was 25. He brought in a stray cat he'd found behind his apartment building. The cat had a broken leg, and Ryan had tears in his eyes. I can't just leave her, he said. I know she's not mine, but I can't just let her suffer. I fell in love with him right there. A man who cried over a stray cat. How could he be anything but good? We dated for 2 years. He was an accountant. Boring job, he always said, but it paid the bills. He wasn't flashy, didn't drive a fancy car or wear expensive clothes. He was just solid, reliable, safe. We got married when I was 27. Small wedding, beach ceremony, tacos for dinner because we both loved tacos. It was perfect. 8 years. We were married for 8 years. We tried for kids, but it never happened. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong with either of us. Sometimes it just doesn't work, they said. Keep trying. We stopped trying after year 6, made peace with it. We had each other. We had the clinic. We had our life. Or so I thought. The night Ryan died, he was driving back from a conference in San Francisco. Accounting conference, 3 days of seminars and networking. He called it the most boring trip of the year, but he went every March without fail. He texted me at 8 p.m., leaving now, home by midnight, love you. At 11:47 p.m., a highway patrol officer knocked on my door. Mrs. Donovan, there's been an accident. I don't remember much about the next few weeks. It's all a blur of crying and casseroles and people talking at me in soft voices. They found his car at the bottom of a cliff. Burned. Barely recognizable. No body inside. The police said he must have been thrown from the vehicle on impact, into the ocean. Lost to the current. I demanded more searches, begged them to keep looking. But after a week, they called off the operation. We're very sorry, Mrs. Donovan, but there's nothing more we can do. The ocean is vast. Sometimes we never find them. I had a funeral without a body. a casket filled with his favorite things instead of him. His college sweatshirt, the book he was reading, photos of us. I buried an empty box and tried to bury my grief with it. The life insurance company took 6 weeks to process the claim. $2 million. Ryan had insisted on a big policy. You never know, he'd said when we signed the papers 5 years earlier. If something happens to me, I want you taken care of. I thought it was sweet. Responsible. The kind of thing a good husband thinks about. Turns out he was just planning ahead for his own escape. Before we continue, I want to thank you for being here with me. If you're enjoying this story, please hit subscribe and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single comment, and they truly mean the world to me. Now, back to the story. I spent the first year in a fog. Grief does strange things to you. Some days I couldn't get out of bed. Other days I worked 16 hours straight because stopping meant thinking. I went to therapy, joined a widow support group, started running, which I'd always hated because it was the only thing that quieted my brain. Slowly, painfully, I started to heal. I didn't touch the insurance money. It felt wrong somehow. Blood money. Death money. Money I'd rather burn than spend. It sat in a savings account, untouched. $2 million I pretended didn't exist. By month 14, I was starting to feel human again. I laughed sometimes, went out with friends, even considered maybe someday possibly dating again. My best friend Sarah convinced me to take a weekend trip to San Diego. You need sun, she said. You need tacos. You need to remember that life can be fun. So we went. Beach, margaritas, shopping, normal things, healing things. Saturday evening, we were walking down a busy street in the Gaslamp Quarter, laughing about something stupid, looking for a place to eat dinner. And then I saw him, walking out of an Italian restaurant, holding the door for a woman with a round, pregnant belly, leaning down to kiss her cheek. My heart stopped. It was Ryan. No, it couldn't be Ryan. Ryan was dead. Ryan was at the bottom of the ocean. I'd buried him. I'd mourned him. I'd cried myself to sleep for a year over him. But this man had Ryan's walk, Ryan's shoulders, Ryan's exact way of tilting his head when he laughed. And when he turned slightly toward the street, I saw his face. It was him. My dead husband was alive, in San Diego, with a pregnant woman, looking happier than I'd ever seen him. I must have made a sound because Sarah grabbed my arm. "Claire, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." A ghost. That's exactly what I'd seen. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, just stood there frozen while he walked away down the street, his arm around his pregnant girlfriend, completely unaware that his dead wife was watching from 30 feet away. They got into a silver Tesla. Brand new, from the looks of it, the kind of car we could never afford when he was alive. I grabbed my phone, took a picture of the license plate. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. "Claire, talk to me." Sarah was panicking now. "What is happening? You're scaring me." That was Ryan. What? That man, getting into that car, that was my husband. Sarah didn't believe me at first. Of course she didn't. I barely believed myself. Grief can make you see things, right? Make you think you see your lost loved one in crowds, in strangers, in faces that aren't really there. But I knew what I saw. I knew my husband's face. I'd looked at that face for 10 years, kissed that face, woke up next to that face every morning. That was Ryan, and he was very much alive. We went back to the hotel. I didn't sleep that night, not a single minute. My brain was doing calculations, rewriting history, seeing everything differently. The accident on a remote stretch of highway, the car that burned, the body conveniently lost to the ocean, the $2 million life insurance policy he'd insisted on. He'd planned this. My husband had faked his own death, stolen $2 million from me, and started a new life with another woman. And I'd spent 14 months crying over him, missing him, feeling guilty for slowly starting to move on. By morning, I wasn't sad anymore. I was furious, and I was going to destroy him. I hired a private investigator the day I got back to Santa Barbara, a woman named Martinez, ex-police detective, the kind of woman who looked like she'd seen everything and was surprised by nothing. I showed her the photo of the license plate, told her the whole story, watched her face shift from skepticism to interest to something that looked like anger on my behalf. "If this is what you think it is," she said, "he's committed multiple felonies, insurance fraud, faking a death, possibly bigamy if he married this new woman. How do we prove it?" She smiled. Not a nice smile, a hunter's smile. "Give me 2 weeks." It took her 10 days. Ryan Donovan was now living as Ryan Mitchell in San Diego. New name, new driver's license, new Social Security number. All purchased illegally, obviously, but good enough to fool most systems. He'd married the pregnant woman 6 months ago. Her name was Natalie, 28 years old, kindergarten teacher. By all accounts, a sweet, trusting woman who had no idea she'd married a con artist and a fraud. Sound familiar? They lived in a nice house in a nice suburb, paid for with my insurance money. He drove that Tesla. She drove a Range Rover. He'd told Natalie he was a widower, that his first wife had died of cancer, that he'd moved to San Diego to start over after his tragic loss. Tragic loss. The only thing he'd lost was his conscience. But here's where it got interesting. Ryan wasn't satisfied with $2 million. Martinez dug deeper and found that Natalie came from money. Serious money. Her father owned a chain of car dealerships across Southern California. She had a trust fund worth about $4 million. And guess whose name Ryan was slowly, carefully getting added to various accounts and properties? He was doing it again, setting up another con, probably planning another tragic accident once he'd gotten access to enough of Natalie's money. She was pregnant with his child, and he was already planning how to rob her blind. Not on my watch. I had 2 options. Option 1, go straight to the police, turn over the evidence, let the system handle it. The problem? Legal cases take time. Lawyers, courts, delays. Ryan might find out he was being investigated, might disappear again, might take the money and run to Mexico or wherever con artists go when they get spooked. Option 2, set a trap. I chose option 2. Martinez had contacts, people who could arrange things. Nothing illegal, she assured me, just creative. We planned for 3 weeks. Step 1, I needed to get close to Natalie. Warn her, yes, but also make sure she didn't tip off Ryan before we were ready. Martinez found out Natalie volunteered at an animal rescue on weekends. Because of course she did. Ryan had a type. Kind women who loved animals and trusted too easily. I showed up one Saturday with a story about wanting to adopt a dog. Natalie was exactly what I expected. Sweet, warm, glowing with pregnancy. So obviously in love with her husband it made my heart hurt. She reminded me of myself 8 years ago. I almost told her everything right there, but I stuck to the plan. I adopted a dog, a scraggly terrier mix named Biscuit, who'd been at the shelter for 6 months. Natalie cried happy tears when I signed the papers. "He's been waiting so long for someone to choose him," she said. I wanted to say, "So have you. You just don't know it yet." We exchanged numbers. She wanted updates on Biscuit. I wanted access to her life. Step 2, the trap itself. I needed Ryan to come to me, to put himself in a situation where he couldn't deny who he was, where there would be witnesses, evidence, no escape. Martinez had an idea: a fake inheritance. We created documents showing that Ryan Donovan, his real name, his dead identity, had been named in his estranged uncle's will. An uncle in Santa Barbara. An inheritance of $500,000. The catch? He had to claim it in person, show identification, sign papers, at a lawyer's office in Santa Barbara. We knew Ryan couldn't resist. $500,000 just sitting there. All he had to do was resurrect himself long enough to collect it. We sent the letter to his San Diego address. Addressed to Ryan Donovan, his dead name arriving at his new life. And then we waited. Before we continue, I want to thank you again for being here. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. And tell me in the comments, have you ever discovered someone wasn't who they claimed to be? I'd love to hear your stories. He called the fake lawyer's office 4 days later. Martinez had set up everything: a rented office space, a woman playing the role of paralegal, even fake legal letterhead. Ryan asked questions, careful questions. How did you find me? Why wasn't I notified earlier? What documentation do I need to bring? He was suspicious, but greedy. Greed won, like it always does with men like him. He made an appointment for the following Friday, 2 p.m. I was going to be there. That Friday, I sat in a back room of the fake law office, watching through a one-way mirror like something out of a crime show. Martinez was there. 2 police detectives who'd been briefed on the situation. An actual lawyer, prepared to witness everything. We'd also invited one more guest, Natalie. I'd called her that morning, told her I had something important to show her, something about her husband. She didn't believe me at first, got angry, accused me of trying to destroy her marriage. "Just come," I said. "If I'm wrong, you can hate me forever. But if I'm right, you need to know." She came. At 2:03 p.m., Ryan walked through the door. I hadn't seen him up close in over a year. Hadn't been this close to him since the morning he left for that conference. Since he kissed me goodbye and said, "See you tonight, babe." He looked good, healthy, tan and relaxed, like a man without a single worry in the world. Why would he worry? He'd gotten away with everything. He sat down across from the fake paralegal, made small talk, complimented the office decor. Charming as ever. Then she asked him to verify his identity. "For the inheritance, we'll need to confirm you're Ryan Donovan. Do you have identification?" He hesitated, just for a second. Then he pulled out his wallet and handed over a driver's license. A California driver's license in the name of Ryan Donovan. His dead identity, somehow still active. The paralegal nodded. "Perfect. And you are the Ryan Donovan who was married to Claire Donovan of Santa Barbara?" Another hesitation. "Yes," he said slowly. "Claire was my wife. She passed away a few years ago." I stopped breathing. He'd told them I was dead. He'd killed me off in his story, just like he'd killed himself in mine. That was my cue. I opened the door and stepped into the room. Ryan looked up. Our eyes met. The color drained from his face. Complete, absolute, bone-white terror. "Hello, Ryan." My voice was steady. I'd practiced this moment 100 times. "Funny, you don't look dead." He opened his mouth. closed it, looked at the door like he was calculating whether he could run. The two police detectives stepped into view, blocking the exit. "Ryan Donovan," one of them said, "you're under arrest for insurance fraud, identity fraud, and faking your own death. You have the right to remain silent." He didn't stay silent. Claire, wait, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Explain how you drove your car off a cliff and let me think you were dead for over a year. Explain how you took $2 million of insurance money and used it to start a new life. Explain how you married another woman while I was still crying at your grave." At the word married, there was a sound from the doorway. Natalie was standing there, her hand on her pregnant belly, her face a mask of horror. "Natalie," Ryan started, "is it true?" Her voice was barely audible. Is any of what she's saying true? He couldn't answer. His silence said everything. Natalie made a sound like a wounded animal, the same sound I'd made 14 months ago when I thought he was dead. Funny how grief sounds the same whether you're losing someone to death or to lies. They handcuffed him right there in the fake law office, read him his rights while he kept trying to talk, to explain, to charm his way out of it like he'd charmed his way through his entire life. It didn't work this time. "Take him," I said. I watched them lead my husband, my dead husband, my alive husband, my lying, cheating, stealing husband, out the door and into a police car. And for the first time in 14 months, I felt like I could breathe. The legal process took almost a year. Insurance fraud is a federal crime. Faking your death is taken very seriously by people who pay out life insurance claims. Ryan pleaded guilty to avoid a trial. He's serving 7 years in federal prison. When he gets out, he'll be a registered felon, broke, and unhirable. The insurance company got their $2 million back, plus interest, plus penalties. They took everything Ryan had accumulated in San Diego. The house, the cars, every penny. Natalie filed for divorce immediately. Her family's lawyers made sure she was protected. The baby was born 3 months after Ryan's arrest, a little girl. I think about that child sometimes. A little girl who will grow up knowing her father is in prison for lying to everyone who ever loved him. Natalie and I stay in touch. Not close friends, but something. 2 women bonded by the same terrible experience. 2 women who survived the same con artist. She's doing okay. Dating someone new, I hear. Someone her father's team of lawyers thoroughly vetted before she was allowed to go on a second date. Can't blame her. As for me, I still have my clinic. Still save animals, 1 sick puppy at a time. I still have Biscuit, the scraggly terrier I adopted as part of my undercover operation. Turns out he's the best thing to come out of this whole nightmare. He sleeps at the foot of my bed and barks at anyone who looks suspicious. Good judge of character, that dog. I started dating again last year, slowly, carefully, with background checks and verification of everything. Maybe that's paranoid. I prefer to call it smart. I learned something through all of this. Trust has to be earned, not given. And if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. I spent 8 years married to a man I never really knew. 8 years loving a character he was playing, not a real person. 8 years building a life with someone who was always planning his exit. Never again. My grandmother used to say that some lessons cost more than others. This one cost me 14 months of grief, $2 million I never should have received, and 8 years with a man who never existed. But I'm still here, still standing, still building a life, a real life this time. One based on truth instead of lies. Ryan Donovan thought he could fake his death and disappear forever. Thought he could steal from me and start over like I never existed. He forgot one thing. The woman he married doesn't give up. Doesn't stop looking. Doesn't let people get away with destroying her life. And now, he's got 7 years in a cell to think about that mistake. Thank you so much for watching. I hope Claire's story resonated with you. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, know that you're not alone. And know that survival is the best revenge. More of my most powerful stories are on your screen right now. Click one and keep watching. I promise you won't regret it. See you in the next video.